Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Not that I'm that familiar with that piece of equipment. What would the life of that piece of equipment be, assuming you use it a few times a year?
Estimate is about 10 years, give or take, depends on usage, of course.
I think it, and I'm just going to add to what the mayor's thinking. I think it, for the amount and over a period of time, that's probably a reasonable thing to have in our resources. So I would support it based on now we've got a little reserve, 3,500, whatever, to go against it.
Would that reserve amount go against it?
We would borrow a little bit more for the truck from our internal borrowing from our reserves. And then you would not affect your tax rate, but you'd have a repayment for a little bit longer on that vehicle.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. From one of the comments that they made last week was that they were on one of retrievement of injured people, they used a rubber boat and that the inflatable. I would hate that they were dragging somebody and that boat would bust and create more damage. This piece of equipment is meant for hauling people out of different terrains. So I believe that if they were going to send their firefighters and our reserve and our auxiliary firefighters, we should give them the proper equipment to retrieve people so they don't get more damaged. And that when I heard that comment of a rubber boat, I just said you could be dragging it and puncture it at any time. So then you don't have any bouncing at all. So I would support this.
Is it the general consensus from council that we would like to add something like this to the fire budget? Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. I see that as a need. I do not necessarily, I'm not convinced that we need another truck at the fire department in this particular year. May I ask Mr. Miller about the truck that he's wanting to buy new? How many kilometers are on the one that you're replacing?
I think it's about 150,000.
150,000.
Sorry, I forgot.
That's kilometers, not miles.
Just, we did have a comment, staff, to make sure that you're speaking into your microphone so that everyone can hear and that it can be recorded. Thank you.
Okay.
The one thing I hear more than anything else, other than when you talk about service, but residents sometimes complain just because sometimes they like to complain about things, but not most of the residents. But I find a lot of people comment to me that we have the nicest, shiniest vehicles in the whole Southern Ontario, people that have been other places. And so I can't justify to the residents this year to buy a new vehicle. And especially how many kilometers?
About 150,000. But
Well,
the thing is, it's not so much the mileage, it's the fact that the truck the last few years has not been dependable mechanically.
well, we have a mechanic. So why don't we get it fixed?
Okay.
Doesn't make any sense to me. If mine's not working and I always buy used, I take it in and get it fixed.
Okay, so we're going to deal with, I know why you're asking the question. You're wondering about which vehicles we can keep in there, which we can't. But
Yes, and I'd like to, instead of buying a vehicle, the side-by-side makes total sense to me, because even if it's only one person in 10 years, it's well worth having to save someone's life. But it's, may I comment more then? Because we were told we got a bare bones budget. Do we have to pave out here this year? It's things like that that I can't justify when people are struggling. So
Okay.
that's another thing. Do we have to have that out this year? And I have a hard time believing that it's been 40 years since it's been fixed. I don't remember it being that much of a problem. I've been around a long time too.
thank you. Mayor Ostrander.
So I'll echo the sentiment that I'm in favor of putting that patient removal device for $10,000 back in the budget, or to put it in the budget originally for the fire department. As for the purchasing of vehicles, I haven't witnessed in the course of my time on council an expenditure or a wholesale purchasing of vehicles unnecessarily at this municipality. We have a vehicle replacement policy so that we have a rolling stock, and we can ensure that the vehicles we have aren't breaking down at the side of the road. Because let me tell you, if you think you're hearing comments about how nice and bright and shiny our vehicles are, the moment they see it on a flatbed driving down County Road 30 because it broke down at a cemetery while they were trying to mow the lawn, you'll hear about it even more. So 150,000 kilometers, how old's that truck, Jim? Yeah, okay.
2004.
So that's
Well, it's used for our flower department's used for hauling chips for trails. You know, it's a 1 ton, so it has, you know, carry capacity that we need.
Okay,
And I guess the only thing I would continue to say, if I may, Deputy Mayor, is that I would hope that we will try to unsilo ourselves in some of our departments and, when possible, share equipment. So, you know, if that piece of equipment isn't being used on a weekend, but staff need to go to training, then it doesn't matter that it's a Parks and Rec truck. It's a Municipality of Brighton truck, and that we would utilize it in the best way we can, as long as it's not being used by the department that theoretically owns it, right?
okay, so I just want to get a general show of hands. Who's in favor of adding the equipment for the side-by-side at about $10,000? Okay, Linda, you're able to make note of that. We've heard some concern about the truck. Is there a general consensus as far as taking the truck out of the budget? We're on fire. We're talking about fire.
Through you, Deputy Mayor.
Go ahead.
For Linda. You stated that some would come from internal borrowing and doing stuff, so it's not going to add anything to the budget by getting the new fire truck?
Well, it does. Right now, you've got tax support of $20,000 and internal borrowing of $50,000 if we make that change. So you're going to have to, this year, pay $20,000 towards that vehicle out of tax support. And then council would be agreeing to future internal borrowing repayments for, 10 years at $5,000 a year.
Is there any way, looking at Parks and Recs and the fire truck, combine those two and just do it all through internal borrowing so we don't have to add to our tax base?
The Parks and Rec truck is not adding to the tax base this year. It's all scheduled to be internally borrowed. So if it's a $70,000 expenditure, so over 10 years, that would be $7,000 a year plus small interest that you're going to repay through your tax base for the next 10 years.
So what you're saying, the only increase to our taxes is the 20,000 for the fire department truck?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've heard a bit of concern about a fire truck, fire department truck from a few. Are there more? Are we content to keep it in? I need to go ahead, Councillor Anderson. Microphone.
And confusing and where they're actually going. And I think the old one's time to let it go. For Parks and Rec, I have one.
Let's discuss Parks and Rec when we get to Parks and Rec. Let's talk, we're talking about fire.
How did we get talking about one that was 150,000?
Because Councillor Tedman was asking questions about it. That's where we got.
So we were talking about the Parks and Rec truck?
Yeah.
So I'm not wrong on that.
No.
So that's why I'm confused. We're talking about the Parks and Rec truck. We've got to approve the fire budget here. So I'm just saying I agree with the new truck for the fire department and the new apparatus.
Thank you.
But I have a question. that might help eliminate the concerns of Councillor Tadman. What would it cost to keep that truck going one more year? And then we'll worry about it next year. If I'm talking about the Parks and Rec truck.
So why don't we get a consensus about fire and then we'll move
All
on to
right,
the
that's
next
what I was
department. And
hoping
you
for.
can ask
Okay.
that question when we're there. We'll
Perfect.
have that discussion then.
Perfect.
So show of hands, fire department capital budget as it is, plus the 10,000 for the apparatus that we're attaching to the side-by-side, right?
We have to vote for both of those separately.
We're not voting individually, right? At
I
the
mean,
end, we're
for the
going,
10,000 side by side and the truck, because maybe everybody wants the
we've
one
already
and
got a
the other.
consensus on the side-by-side, so I guess it's just the truck.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
already got that.
Yeah, so general consensus on the truck,
No,
so that's 4. Can we do that again? That's 4 on the truck. Okay. Okay, so next is planning and zoning. We have a budget of 125,000 capital. Any questions, concerns, discussion? Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just looking at my notes from last week again, and I note that we did not have in this budget additions to reserves. I think was primarily the comment that was made, and it could have been to the tune of $65,000, which would normally have, is that tax support or is that user fee support?
Operating.
Very well, thank you. And I haven't obviously just received the operating, and I don't mean to go to that, down that road, but is that in that narrative?
In the items that we
Thank you.
could not,
Is that also true then of the DC update? Monies for the DC update?
that is an administration budget. The $10,000 for the DC update is in the budget.
It is. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Planning, anything else? Do we have a general consensus on the planning budget at 125? Oh, Councillor Rowley, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, as you said, so the change is 62,500 to the planning zone. Is that all to be focused on the secondary plan?
Through the mayor? Yes, it is. So it's all going to be devoted to the secondary plan, and it's a 2-year program.
Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
thank you through you to the Director of Planning. Could you explain a bit more about the secondary plan? We do have people here also listening and maybe online. I think I understand the request, but I just would like to be more clear on it.
Through the mayor, just a bit of a background description of the function of the secondary plan. It provides some details as to where the future roads would be and where services will be extended and what land uses would occur where, such as high density or medium density, low density uses where commercial core areas would better be defined or future commercial areas would be located. So there's a lot of coordination that goes into drafting that pattern, that map, making sure there's land use compatibility, or that we have the most efficient location for a new road or the extension of servicing. So there's a lot of economics that would go, would benefit from a good secondary plan, and making sure that we don't see, a couple of severances where a future internal street really should go. It's very easy for a couple of severances to really not really landlock a parcel, but to really make it difficult to efficiently build out a parcel of land. Yeah, so it would look at the big picture, but with a real polished eye to some critical details.
follow up just on that.
Yep.
So today we got a long, I read most of it from the county's study. So this would be a consultant that would do this work. And so that ties in for the new regulations that have come down from the province.
This secondary plan would be in addition to what the county's doing. We're going to have regard for all the county official plan policies and their growth forecasts and things like that. So yes, I have been in dialogue with the county planner and trying to coordinate some of the two projects and making sure that what the county does and the timing of it informs the secondary plans appropriately. So we'll have to be careful in how we stage the drafting of the secondary plan.
May I just make a comment? And
I doubt it.
yeah, the day's almost over. So this would quite satisfy Councillor Blanc's ask to do with another road coming in and all the services coming down, maybe through by North Frills on John Street.
That's correct. It would address specifically that question and many others like it.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And these are all contemplated through our official plan that council passed about a year ago now. Is that true? The parcels of land where we would be looking at putting secondary plans are considered in our official plan for secondary planning.
Precisely, Mayor. The official plan makes specific reference to doing secondary plans for those areas, yes.
Go ahead. And then,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the one thing that we sort of spoke around at the last meeting was broadband infrastructure concerns, and we are nowhere near the idea conceptually from our friends at the Broadband Committee. They've only met once, but I think we can anticipate some infrastructure requests coming down the road from them. And what I don't want is for us to get behind the 8 ball on yet another infrastructure project, a critical one, frankly, when it comes to broadband and internet access, especially in our rural areas. So without having an earmark from that committee or any other organization, it's tough to budget for that. But if something were to come up 6 months from now, where would we find the monies for that kind of infrastructure project?
We still have some modernization funding to apply toward that project. So it depends on the dollar value. I would assume that we would be looking at some partnerships and then maybe even some grant funding. So I think that we would be able to contribute. I believe we had 78,000 in the budget last year for broadband. So somewhere around that amount of those dollars could be earmarked toward that for that committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
any other discussion? Oh, yes, sorry, Councillor.
Just a question for Mr. Walsh, more for understanding or for Ms. Whitfield. Under planning where it says 125,000 for secondary plans, DM Wills, where is that captured in the budget? Is it under operational? I only ask because under the capital, there's spots where there's consulting captured. So they're captured in different spots, depending on what it is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Linda. Did you want to comment?
That's exactly correct. And consulting for operations is in the operational budget.
Okay. Are we satisfied with planning? Yes. Do I need to get a show of hands or? Yes. Okay. Let's move on. The industrial park, the capital funding, we have it at 266,000. Does anyone have questions or comments? Are we satisfied with that budget? Yes? Okay, we're ready to move on. Next, we have Public Works. This is a large one. So we have 4,279,000. Discussion. Comments. Mayor Ostrander.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My biggest concern is and always will be that we get further and further behind with regard to our infrastructure in this community. And certainly this budget doesn't help get us up to speed. We can see in the narrative that we're doing very few urban roads or road work for 2021, although it looks like we're staying more or less up to speed on our rural roads, which is significantly good news. In my conversations with staff, I understand that Harbor Street, Marina, and Wallace will be designed and engineered and ready to go in the next few months, 6 months. Is that true, Mr. Parkinson?
Through your worship. Yes, it's going to be tendered and should be released soon. So it may not have final design till spring or at least early into next year.
Would that make it applicable for a project for 2021?
It would likely be more applicable for 2022.
Okay.
Because then we'll be into that late tendering issue again, and a lot of the work is already awarded at that time. So
Is design and engineering work considered capital or operating?
Capital.
So is there any other capital engineering and design work being contemplated for 2021?
we want to complete the Loyalist Drive, and then we'll have shelf ready Napoleon, Addison. The Sharp Road extension is going to start shortly. Applewood will be ready and designed and tender ready. And then we're working on Harbor, Marina, and Wallace. And then if funds are still available from this year, we're going to issue a tender to redesign Presqu'île Parkway from Ontario to the park gates.
So just to be clear, even if we budgeted for additional road work for 2021, we likely wouldn't have the engineering ready for it.
Some roads we will. We will have Addison, Napoleon, and Applewood that we could tender.
Addison, Napoleon, and Applewood would be ready for 2021?
Correct.
Thank you.
So I have a question. We all received this nice big map with the $47 million in deficit roadwork that we need to do. I won't ask how much it'll cost us to finance that. But I am wondering, so all of these roads, they still need engineering on top of that, or many of them do, is that correct?
That's correct. Many of them do.
Okay. Okay, we'll start over here with Councillor Anderson, and then Tadman, and then Bateman.
Thank you, Deputy. Did you, myself? Thank you for bringing that up about the engineering. You mentioned at the last meeting that about Main Street from Yonge to Ontario, and then from Ontario to Rundle or to the limits. And I look at the breakdown of costs of that. I think they're about $3 million to go from Ontario to the western boundary, and then it's about $3 million to go from Yonge to so-and-so. And I brought up a question about, do we know what's going on out at the west end as far as the future development and present development, how it's being completed, and what's expected there with retirement homes, with subdivisions and all that. And I think that might be an area that you might want to start that, going back to what you asked, that engineering, perhaps some money can be put into starting that engineering now with the anticipation of it being a couple of years before you really get at it. But you're talking about being shovel ready. It might be a wise time to start that engineering process now, and perhaps from the Ontario to the Ontario Street out. I'm not talking about down Main Street. Parts of Main Street need some attention, but I'm talking about Ontario Street out. What do you think about that? I know that, and I'm looking at your fee structure here, so perhaps we can utilize some of this towards that?
Through your worship. The two projects we plan on doing the engineering design on next year are the Main Street from Ontario to the boundary, and those are doing a full urban reconstruction, so similar to the other side of Ontario where it's 4 lanes of asphalt and curb and gutter and sidewalk and that sort of thing. So it would be fully urbanized to some extent, and the final design is obviously still in the air because it depends on what's developed at that site. And then the second project for next year is Prince Edward Street, right from Elizabeth to the intersection of Harbor Street, and that's in conjunction with the county's project that they want to reconstruct in 2022.
So that's all in here? The cost of,
Yes, that's part of our engineering money that we have in every year.
okay. And then, so the follow-up to find out what the developers and other interested parties for that had talked about sidewalks and lights and all those things. There'll be some discussions with those groups during that process, I presume. I'm going to ask their CO for that, CAO.
Through Madam Chair, the answer is absolutely. It's where our high growth area is within the municipality, and given that we're looking at designing a significant project out to the west end of the community, we're certainly going to be talking with our partners and making sure that we coordinate the services and the future growth out in that area.
Okay.
Councillor Tadman?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't have to have it tonight, but I've been asked how much money did we do in new builds for sidewalks this year. I know we've spent a lot, and we're not constructing, is that correct, Preston, any new sidewalks next year? It's like we're not budgeted for just sidewalks. I know the areas where we're doing the whole street will be new, but we're not doing other sidewalks besides that.
That's correct. Everything we have budgeted is for repairs and maintenance to get compliant with minimal maintenance standards.
Okay.
So once we get caught up on those, and then we can turn our mind to spending money on capital sidewalks where we, complete connecting links or even new sidewalks to join different communities or neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure you'll get that back to me. What was the total amount that we budgeted between what we took out of reserves last year and what we've done this year altogether for sidewalks? You don't have to give it to me now, Linda.
As far as new sidewalks go or maintenance on sidewalks?
Let's do both then, maintenance and new.
Did we do any new sidewalks here this year, or is it just all maintenance?
No, it's all other than the one at the school, which council passed last year. Yeah.
But the rest was all maintenance.
The rest is
fixing.
maintenance.
Did you want a quick follow-up on that, just then we can move on?
So I've seen places where a big chunk has been done, so we still just call that maintenance, do we? Okay.
Okay, it's Councillor Bateman.
Just a follow-up to the pre-design for that section of Main Street, and as you spoke to working with the developers, have they given any to anybody that knows any indication, because this is really the second fall that they said they're going to have shovels in the ground, and you wouldn't want to do the pre-design until they say shovels in the ground for sure.
Madam Chair. We're in constant contact with the developers. We have existing subdivision agreements in place, and we have many ongoing discussions with the development community, and are quietly going about understanding clearly what their future plans are and how it might tie in with our infrastructure. So in due course, all of those discussions eventually come before council for their consideration, but there's a number of exciting opportunities that are taking place currently behind the scenes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, for Preston. On Harbor Street and Wallace and Marina Drive, can those two, Marina and Wallace Drive, be separated in the design, like you design other roads, so it could be completed in 2021.
Anything's possible. I would recommend against it because there's some work that needs to be done at those intersections in accordance with the Stormwater Master Plan. So that whole project should really be done at once so that everything syncs together and everything binds together. So it is part of a larger project. And I would recommend doing the arterial link being Harbor Street over the secondary streets that join Raglan and Harbor, because it's in bad shape and the infrastructure is in far worse condition under the ground than it is on Marina and Wallace.
I have a follow-up question.
Yep.
So if this council, like I don't get the thing of talking with you guys through the week, like the mayor does, but anyway, with staff. So if we decided to borrow some money and the staff, the council would, is there any way that Harbor Street and Georgina and Marina could be fast-tracked for 2021 because Harbor is in bad shape?
We can do our best, but I can't make any guarantees because we do have a lot of other work that's already underway. But obviously we would follow council's direction and wishes on what they want done for projects. Money might be the factor of that because it will be a big job and it will be expensive.
Because at one point we're going to have to borrow the money to do it anyway.
Mayor Ostrander.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Given that we know Addison, Applewood, and Napoleon will be ready in terms of design and engineering for reconstruction in 2021, I would recommend that we borrow the $1.925 million or budget to borrow the $1.925 million for those three roadways, just shy of a kilometer, and get the work done in 2021 so that we can continue to keep pace with our infrastructure needs, knowing that Harbor, Wallace, and Marina will be ready for reconstruction in 2022, and maybe we'll have the will to borrow the monies or beg for the monies from an upper level of government for that project in future years. Keeping in mind that I would anticipate staff would be looking for granting opportunities for any of these projects as we move them forward.
Mrs. Whitfield, if we were to go with those projects at 1.925, what would be our options? Just totally borrowing? Is there internal? Is there, what do we have?
First of all, it would depend on which route we go for Telephone Road. Because if we don't go with full paving and we end up, if council's wish was to do surface treatment, then that's going to free up some of your gas tax money, which can be applied to this project. If we have to borrow $2 million, I would not recommend going beyond 15 years to borrow for a road, because by 15 years, you're starting on your asset management maintenance on roads. So I would not recommend borrowing beyond 15 years. So that would cost you about 1.62% in those 3 years or 15 years, future years. But that is, again, council's prerogative. Please bear in mind, though, that council is looking at a very, very large borrowing expenditure for wastewater. The annual repayment limit that we know that is in your books right now is based on your 2018 FIR. In 2019, we did borrow significant dollars. We borrowed for Alice Street reconstruction. We borrowed for Alice and Dundas Streets, the roads themselves. And we also borrowed for the expansion of Brighton Health Services Center. So those have to be added against our annual repayment limit as well. Then if we get into a project that's $11, $12 million for wastewater, that's going to go against your annual repayment limit as well. So then when you start borrowing for roads, even $2 million, you see the pattern that I'm trying to explain is that we're going to get ourselves into owing or having $1 million or more in repayments annually just for external debt. Some of that wastewater could even be $1 million in wastewater alone a year. So I just want to caution council, yes, it's great to do more projects, and yes, it's great to move ahead, and we have to find a way. But maybe getting our asset management plan complete this year, which will then provide us opportunities to have a more stable asset management plan for grant applications, might be a benefit to this municipality, because that's been one of our weaknesses, is the asset management plan that we have. And maybe that we need to just maybe put the brakes on and see what happens with our wastewater project, what it's going to cost us, how we're going to be able to fund it, and then hopefully resolves our ammonia issue and we're not into borrowing more money. Because if we don't resolve the ammonia issue there, what next? And then are we going to be in a position to be able to address our emergencies if we've extended our borrowing to the limit of our annual repayment?
Thank you for that. Okay. Councillor Rowley. Hasn't gone yet.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Once again, just looking at the streets, and I kind of see where Addison, Applewood, and Napoleon would be a positive move forward. Like you say, we're getting behind the 8 ball as far as our streets go. I would like to just talk about Platt Street for a minute. It's a small street. We've done Victoria and the other streets up there. We did that maybe 6 or 8 years ago. If we're looking at reconstructing Main Street in the very near future, in the next year or two, I would wonder why we would leave that one, even though it's a very, it's not a significant amount of money. I think it's almost $400,000. But wouldn't it be wise to maybe get that one fixed so that it can link in as the other little streets north of Highway 2 Main Street would be, so that all of those connections would be all looked after before we dig up Main Street. That whole corridor, that whole block then would be finished. Just thinking.
Go ahead, Mayor Ostrander.
So I guess my question would be engineering and design for Platt Street. When would that be contemplated for?
We can look at that for next year. But we've been trying to judge, the projects we do on the need of the infrastructure under the ground. And Napoleon and Addison would far trump Platt. And it is a small street, and it would be nice to get it cleaned up, because since we're doing the rest of Sanford as well, but we might have that 400,000 that could be better spent elsewhere to protect the infrastructure in the ground and to make sure we can.
But in terms of engineering and design, could we have that included in the Main Street project? Or yeah, it would be tied in there a bit.
I would probably do it standalone, because it is a smaller project, and it's a little more attainable for our needs. Because realistically, when you look at Main Street, it's going to be a little ways down the list, because you're talking multi-million-dollar project versus a few $100,000.
Right.
So it is something that we could add to our list to have the pre-design, and just so that it's shelf ready.
I think that would help get that project moved forward anyway. So thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Rowley. Do you have a follow-up to that, or?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
kind of sort of. It has to do with Main Street, because Main Street's also county network. Is there cost sharing with the county at all on Main Street?
No, there isn't.
Okay. I see.
But
Councillor-
hang on, Pacific Road.
That's correct. It's under the full jurisdiction of municipality, right?
Thank you.
So when you mentioned these, through you, Deputy Mayor, the infrastructure, the wastewater infrastructure. So when you said it's going to be done, is there serious infiltration in those streets that'll reduce the amount of flow during rains and storms that are going to the wastewater?
Through your worship. Yeah, there's likely infiltration in those streets. The bigger concern is storm that's failing, and water lines for water supply. They're edging the 70-year mark, so they're really at the end of their life cycle, and could fail.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman and then Mayor Ostrander. Microphone.
The one question, Mr. Parkinson kind of you already answered it. I was going to more of a comment. These streets that you list, that's more for the need under the ground, for what you can't see than more than what you can see. Correct? Like
Generally speaking, but when you get the Presque Isle Parkway, for instance,
Yeah.
that's just primarily asphalt. The water and sewer are in good shape. They're fairly new and they are off to the side. So that would just be a new platform on that street.
Yeah, because my comment, I know it's tough because we probably all face the questions in public when streets come up, why not my street, why not this street? But I think really the message that we have to make sure that we relay to the public is it's what you can't see that's far more important than what you can see. You know, I could put up with a few potholes before I could put up with a basement being flooded because the water main breaks. So the other question I had, because, or sewage, thank you. The other question, because we brought up Marina Drive and Wallace, when the pre-design goes in, is that just going to be the pre-design or any of those streets that don't currently have sidewalk? Is that on the plate for any of those? Is that ever, I don't know how many streets that are up for pre-design that don't currently have, I know Marina and Wallace don't, and I'm sure others have had that comment as well, as we're going to get sidewalks. So I don't know if that's part of that or not part of that.
Wallace and Marina will remain open ditch design because it's part of the stormwater management in order to get the major storms to the lake and not flood homes. So in all the stormwater studies that they've done to the north for development, they've considered the major storm to pass through those streets to get to the bay. So it would remain open ditch and no sidewalks.
Thank you. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I just want to focus on Telephone Road for a second, because I think that might be integral to any financing consideration if we were to add roads. A rural road in our community, and I would seriously recommend not spending the money to bring it up to what I'll loosely refer to as an urban standard. And I know I'll get pushback from Public Works on that term, but you know what I mean. But let's say $500,000 and do the 3 surface treatments on it, and have some conversations with the county about keeping their contractor trucks off of it, understanding that of course we have a fairly major commercial. That corner is being reconstructed for the Highway 401 turnoff. So I'm not sure where we would reconstruct to and from. I would leave that up to the experts, but I wouldn't reconstruct all the way down to County Road 30, because that's likely to be torn up anyway in the coming couple of years. But that would be my recommendation to council: is spend the $464,000 on surface treatment for Telephone Road, and then we have an extra $500,000 to spend on urban roads.
Councillor Tadman.
I was going to bring that up. I know it's hard to believe, but I totally agree with the mayor on this one.
Miracles never cease.
Is this being recorded?
I hope not. We don't want that out in the public. Anyways,
That's a yes.
I was understanding at one time that the Telephone Road, they were going to level it out because there's some bad spots there in the winter time. Was that going to be part of the engineering of that road or not? I still don't want to do it right now, because I think with what's going on at the 401 and 30 now, and there's probably going to be more expansion there, and the whole challenge that we have with the county with the vehicles coming up and down there, I don't see putting a totally new sort of urban, we won't call it totally urban road. So what's that the plan though, Preston, that they were going to make the big high hills that sometimes people just partially get up when it's icy and they slide back down, because it happened to my daughter and I one night on Telephone Road. Was there some talk of making them more level, taking some of those hills off?
Through your worship, the councillor might be confusing sections of Telephone Road. So
Maybe.
The section up for reconstruction is from McDonald's to County Road 26. and the side of the forum that runs.
Oh,
from
that's
30
where
to
it
the
was.
boundary.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
it
there's
has a
hills
couple of
on
bad
that
hills.
side too that are bad.
Mhm.
Yes, so the Northumberland County is working on a plan, and I think they have 2 years. They're going to work on the design to make that, take that over as a county road, redesign it, reconstruct it so that it becomes the emergency detour route
Okay.
instead of sending vehicles down in through Brighton.
Okay. Thank you.
So on the telephone road, 963,000 to to put all asphalt on it basically. And what were we saying if we were just going to do 3 lifts of the 464? So about 500.
Yeah,
that
so
correct?
the original design would be a lot of base work, 2 new lifts of asphalt, some ditching, culverts, that sort of thing. So it'd be a full reconstruction from where the MTO limits stop, halfway up the hill roughly at McDonald's, all the way to 26. So the estimate we gave, if we went to just surface treatment, it would still include base work, ditching, culverts, and then a triple lift of surface treatment.
So a triple lift. And then for maintenance, like 5 years from now, we'd have to maybe put 1 more lift on. Is that the sort of thing we're looking
Yeah,
at?
correct. Likely every 5 years, you'd have to put a single on that road just due to traffic volumes.
I think right now that sounds more reasonable than doing the full million. Are we all, go ahead. Councillor Anderson and Councillor Bateman want to comment on that?
Yeah, I like that idea too. It's just not knowing what's going to happen up there once it's all, once it's all done by the government, as well as we might have some plans ourselves that might come along. So we've got space when we might be worthwhile. Anyway.
It's tough to stop the traveling public, regardless of who it is, from using a public roadway. I will certainly continue to advocate for it at the county level in terms of stopping the use of Telephone Road, especially after we spend the money on it. And especially given that they come off the highway and can travel down a county road and then back up a county road to get to the landfill site. I don't really see that it's a terrible hardship on the county contractors. But at the end of the day, I would also be asking our CAO and our Public Works Director to continue to advocate for that through their county sources as well. I'm not sure we can just shut that road off, though. I think we've gone down had that discussion through the solicitor. Maybe you could comment on that.
Well, perhaps the CAO has an update, because I requested that information from our solicitor, I believe in June, with a couple of follow-ups, and I still haven't received a response on whether or not we can limit or eliminate truck traffic on that road, because we are a 2-tier municipality. But I guess my question would be, do we need a motion from council in order to change our direction? Because we're going to have some conversations with the county, and I'm going to have to change direction on our design firm on where they've gone so far. So I'm just wondering if we need a motion so that it cements this fact that we've changed direction on this project, or not. So I'll just leave that up to Bob's comments.
But I'm going to jump in here, and I'm not sure exactly where the conversation is going tonight. We've allocated 2 evenings for capital budget. So if council's ready mind to approval of the capital budget this evening, that's great. And if you're not, that's great also. We'll have another couple of meetings. The reality is we want to have a fulsome discussion with council. I want you to feel comfortable. And when you're ready to decide, that's great. And it can be tonight or whatever night you like. So the bottom line is, if it happens to be tonight, certainly we'll have some some motions to deal with approval of the capital budget. And in so doing, if Telephone Road is part of it, we'll have our marching orders accordingly.
Through budget. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, for the mayor. In your statement, you said that the county was going to be pre-designing that road and looking at it over 2 years as a designated route so the traffic doesn't go through Brighton. So the question would be to you and to Preston. Can we wait the 2 years before we do this repair?
Different road. Wrong side of the road. You're on the wrong side of the road.
Wrong side of the road.
The EDR would be the north portion
North
of
side,
Telephone
okay.
Road heading west. And that's the road that's being contemplated for the EDR change.
Okay. wrong
Because
side
the
of road.
EDR is already north of the 401 going east. And that's County Road 41 through Wooler. So even though it's not really used as it should be, that's another issue. But the county is working on design work for the westward portion of the EDR to get the truck traffic when the 401 shuts down out of the downtown. It'll still go through Brighton's portion, but not through downtown Brighton.
To do that, I'm in favor of not doing anything to that road and doing what we require for our roads because that are being destroyed by our own traffic.
Okay, Councillor Bateman, did you want to comment again?
Yeah, I know where Councillor LeBlanc's coming from, but some of our residents live on that section of Telephone Road. Just a follow up to the stopping the heavy trucks. The Quinte, is it because Quinte West, they don't have an upper tier? Because I think they have a load restriction on their end, so they can just do that because they don't report to an upper tier, I'm assuming.
They are a separated municipality within a county system, unlike Brighton, which is two-tier. That's correct.
Right after the food processing plants, it switches to load restrictions, I think, during a certain time of year, and our end is a free-for-all. That would be the difference, the upper and the single standalone.
So you're on Telephone Road going east.
Our section, no load restriction, their section, it is after the food processing.
So the food processing plant, that's well into the urban portion. Yeah, our municipal boundary starts about, I don't know, 500-600 meters to the west of Christiani Road, right? And yeah, I mean, they could put load restrictions on, and so could we. We could put load restrictions on Telephone Road anytime we wanted, couldn't we?
Mm-hmm. We should be able to.
It's our road.
That's a good question, because I know under the Highway Traffic Act, we can limit the weight restrictions in a certain period of time. And in my previous experience, we've put year-round restrictions on roads just to protect them when they were building windmills and that sort of thing.
Right.
But under the two-tier, that's why I was awaiting Mr. Ewert's comments on that, because I'm not sure if we can or not. It's unclear when I read the regs and everything that whether or not we can do that year-round.
So regardless, I remain in favor of not spending the almost $1 million on this road. I think we should spend the 464 and reallocate the $500,000 to these three urban roads projects. That's my opinion, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And if we can find out about the road restrictions as well, because I think that's an important part of this. Not a deciding factor for me, but I think if we're going to do this, going to fix this road to any degree, we need to be able to restrict the traffic on it. Is everyone in agreement? I think we have consensus on whether or not to just lower that expenditure and just do the, I want to call it hard topping because I'm old-fashioned, surface treatment on that road. Is everyone in agreement with that? Yeah, okay. So Linda, that's another change. And I'm sure that's going to lead into a discussion about other roads. Go ahead, Councillor Rowley.
Just one question on that for Linda. Is that tax supported money, Linda, or is that money that we're borrowing externally, internally, or whatever?
So it wasn't going to make a difference on your bottom line by reducing that, but it was going to free up some gas tax funds so that you can spend that on other projects.
So approximately 500,000 in gas tax funds? Okay. Go ahead,
I
Councillor.
was just going to say that I understand there's 500 left of gas tax, which isn't going to affect any of our tax increase. So why don't we use that wisely to get maybe some of those streets that, especially Councillor LeBlanc keeps asking about, Marina and Wallace. To me, it makes sense what you said, Preston, that it should all be done together with Harbour. But what kind of engineering costs would there be on doing those three, the Harbour combination, at least so much of Harbour and Marina and Ward?
They're over.
So the design tender we're putting out is to do the design from Ontario Street right through to Cedar, and then Wallace and Marina.
Okay. That would be done this year.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
be
the
awarded this
engineering
year
part
and
of it,
done into
yeah.
the spring, yeah.
But not necessarily ready for next year's construction.
No, that's correct. It would be another late tender, and then we're into late construction.
So we're in the late, and every time we do that, we regret it.
Yeah.
It's almost better to put it into the next year and pick out a couple roads that will be ready for next year.
Yeah, can I just follow up on that,
Yeah.
please? On the gas tax, Linda, we're really supposed to spend that in the year that we get it. don't we?
You keep and years to spend our
Because that's not what
funds.
happens in other committees that I've not.
No, it's not generally what happens because it's funding that we're getting to do these projects. So we usually like to move them forward.
Okay. So really, we've got 500,000 that we could spend this year without affecting the tax increase. So where would, Preston, where would you put something like that if you had it in your pocket?
So what's the priority in roads? Yeah.
If it was my pocket, I'd probably put it in a GIC. But I would recommend doing Addison or Napoleon Street. Because
So
the
Napoleon
infrastructure,
is,
sorry, the infrastructure in the ground there is really old and it is in very poor condition.
so Addison is 545,000, and Napoleon is 600,000 approximately. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I still would advocate that we do the three roads that we have design and engineering for now. The cost is about $1.925 million. We have $500,000 out of gas that we just removed from an expenditure for gas tax that we could apply for that to that. So it would mean we would need to find an additional $1.425 million. Let's call that $1.5 million because we're all friends. And it makes for easier math in my head. And I guess I would ask, what would the advice from our finance department be if that would be council's wish?
I'm a little bit confused about the dollars, and I believe they may include water and wastewater. So it's not all tax support, or is this all tax support?
No, that's an all-in cost per road. So it does include storm water and wastewater.
So we would need a more firm number on what is tax support, what is water, what is wastewater. And then we do have money in OSIF, and we do have money gas tax as well. I don't think that we want to deplete our reserves, but there is, I believe, over 700,000 in each reserve. So perhaps some of it could be used to help keep that cost down. You may look at increasing your taxes a little bit more. You may look at borrowing a little bit. That's council's prerogative.
So the three roads you're speaking of are Addison, Applewood, and Napoleon.
That's correct. And they are designed and engineered and ready to go right now. That's my understanding.
They will be in probably a few weeks. They're all at 90% design.
So they will certainly be ready by the tick of the clock of January 1, 2021.
And we will not be financing the full 1.925.
Well, as Linda's, our financial director Sorry, Linda. Not a lot of, but part of that comes out of sewer and water reserves because they're going in as new in the capital part of it. And you don't know what the separation would be in cost, do you, at this point? Can you make a ballpark guess?
No, I couldn't
Kim
make a
Preston?
ballpark guess, but I would doubt that Preston would know that.
No, I couldn't make an estimate like that with any kind of confidence. I would be misleading council.
Okay, I'll take a guess. No.
That's better. Mhm.
But I think we need to get these done in a way that we're not raising the tax rate. And we do have 2 funds in reserve that we can borrow from or take out, remove. We don't need to borrow. And we have gas tax and we have them partially being paid through the reserves from water and sewage. So I think that combination, if we knew we knew what the separation of the prices would be on all that, we could make that decision, but we could at least agree maybe to do it that way.
Sure. Is it possible?
We don't have
Well,
to
maybe
have
we're
it.
asking questions that can't be answered. Is there a possibility that we can add this 1.925 without increasing taxes? Is really what you're asking, right, Mary?
Yeah, or most of,
Or most of? What's most? 90%?
99.9.
That's all of. Actually, Councillor Rowley first.
I guess I'm along the same line as Councillor Tadman. I would certainly, if we can, as you said, the engineering is almost done. I would certainly wait another week until we got hard and fast numbers from both Preston and from Linda to see where this will take us, and then see if we do need to borrow. There between, as you said, with OSIF, Linda, and gas tax, and then the water sewer. I would rather just wait to make that decision, although I know kind of where I would like to go with that, but at least we would know where we're spending the money from if we could just get hard and fast numbers, maybe by our next budget meeting to make the decision on that one. We've got time, right?
So if it's the desire of the majority of council that we get that information and look at adding those to be mostly funded, not through tax increase, I guess. Just let me.
Can we have
let me-
that discussion?
Can I just finish what I'm saying? Thank you. So if that's the desire of most of council, then we can revisit it next week when we have those hard and fast numbers, right? We can, we can still do operating next week and just pull this item out if we have that. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So what I guess I would like to know is, do we have a majority of council that agrees that these 3 projects should be contemplated for the capital budget? And if so, then we'd ask staff to go back and bring back a plan on how to fund that. But I'm curious if council is in fact hard and fast the way Councillor Tadman is on the no more tax increase. We've asked for construction price index plus 1% just to get us a baseline on the capital. But we have a $47 million infrastructure deficit in this community, and we're not going to be able to get out of that by going to the bank or digging ourselves, or just draining our reserves. We just don't have that kind of money. So we do need to ask the taxpayer to help fund these things. And I guess the question is, I think we know where Councillor Tadman stands at 0 or no further than we've gone yet. But I guess for capital projects, especially, I'd like to see maybe an additional 1 or 2% come from the taxpayer.
So my concern in that is it's not necessarily the increase to taxes, but what Linda had talked about earlier is that we have this very huge project that we may have to borrow the full amount of. We don't know how much it is for the wastewater, and I'd like to have a good idea on that before we decide to add too much to our borrowing. That's my concern, is the borrowing part of it. But I would like to hear from the rest of council on what their thoughts are. So Councillor Tab, we've heard from you. Are you adding something new at this point, or can I go?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, briefly, and then I'm going to go around to everyone else.
I'll be as brief as I can, Deputy Mayor. Don't be so bossy. Anyways, in 2019, we had 2.45 tax increase. In 2020, last year, we had 3.33.
Can you talk into your microphone, please?
Pardon?
Can you talk into your microphone, please?
Yeah, would you like to hear it all over again, how those tax increases were?
Go ahead.
3.45 for 2019, 3.33, and I think it was more than that. But anyways, I just got that from the financial director for 2020. And now, Mayor, you're saying that at least we should go, say, 3 something, whatever. So we're over 10% in the last 3 years. And sure, the infrastructure, you know, according to certain consultants, we're so far behind. But when I look around, I don't see that the infrastructure is in that bad a shape that we have to put that kind of a tax burden this year. Thank you.
Councillor Bateman?
I would like to see the numbers come back as well, like Councillor Tadman said, because I said it last meeting and I'll say it again. We haven't seen and won't for a while the full effect of COVID-19 and the economic impact. And part of your budgeting process, not just this year and future years, is going to be based on revenues coming in. And we see the full impact of how families are going to suffer from COVID and people are going to be unemployed. Then what are we going to do future down the road? But I did have one question when we're looking and talking about these numbers, whether it's Addison, Applewood, on probably for Mr. Parkinson. You picked the street. Are these just the resurfacing dollars, or because some streets the infrastructure won't have to be touched underneath, some streets it will. So is this just to fix what we can see, and then any infrastructure costs would be over and above these numbers?
Those estimates contain what we replaced.
Okay.
For instance, Wallace and Marine will need all new services because they're copper and they're at the end of their life, but the main still should be okay. Other streets are completely reconstructed from one end to the other, like all new main sewer and storm. So those estimates are included in general numbers in those, that 40.
Yeah, because the only street I see on there, the Prince Edward Street, that's county, that would be 100% for the top. That number is for the resurfacing, or sorry, for the infrastructure.
Storm, the surface are county.
So, but we staff direction as far as how we'd like it funded. So we've already heard that from the mayor, what he's interested. We know what Councillor Tadman wants. Is there somewhere that you lie in there as well as far as tax-based funding? Or
I understand the need to keep up on your roads, but I also understand the needs because people are going to be, they're suffering now and they're going to be suffering in the future. I think we have to try to keep the taxes low, especially during these times. I don't like to call it the new norm because nothing's normal about COVID-19. It's the current reality, but we have to deal with the current reality. And I'd rather see the numbers come back as Councillor Tadman requested, because I don't want to burden the taxpayers, you know, for 3% increase when some people are suffering a negative 5%, you know, income lost in this last year. So I think it'd be a bit much.
Thank you. I just want to comment, there's 2 ways for us to keep taxes low, and that is by cutting expenses. The other is increasing the amount of money coming into the municipality. So we need to remember that too. Our job isn't just to cut taxes. It's to make sure that we're planning for this future growth so that we can actually bring in more money to the municipality as well. So I think we have to remember that when we're looking at these things. Well, we do have to have infrastructure in place as well. Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, these are tough times, but this is a budget. It's only a budget. It's a forecast. You can tweak, you can play with it a little bit. Because we're talking now in November, what we're planning to do next year. So some of it will be spent because we're going to go to give it approval to go ahead and spend it. But so as far as worrying about what's going on in the in our situation right now, it's a valid point. However, we need to be moving ahead. When we got elected, this is an excellent council for doing this, was to move ahead and get some of the infrastructure caught up in this community. We have some major expenses that sort of everybody sort of knew they were coming our way, but the roads are one thing, and that's the one thing I heard a lot about was the roads, the sidewalks, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Well, so we said we would do it, and I think we're doing it fiscally responsible. Yeah, we have to be worried about, we'd be concerned about an earthquake, and that's what we might be in for in the next year with COVID. But this is a budget, this is a forecast, this is a plan with a vision. The vision is to improve our community and to bring it up to a standard that's the people have been asking for. And I think a percent or two is a smart move to, if we can get some things done, rather than keep putting them off. And I don't want to be here to be putting things off if we don't have to. Fiscally responsible is the key words, and under the light of what we need to work with all the things that are going on in the world right now. But I think we can manage it. I think we have good people here to manage it. Your presentation tonight was very good, talking about what we need to be thinking about outside the box here. So I just want to give you my point. That's I think the mayor's correct. I would support what he's talking about there. As far as going a little bit more, we can maybe sharpen the pencil. We got a lot of work to do here. So maybe we should be sharpening the pencil so we can achieve some of these things. We're talking about trucks and things like that.
Councillor LeBlanc, do you want to add your piece?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This is hard times with COVID, and people are going to be struggling. I understand, and I have a rough time with this year putting a tax increase on. I also know we got to do infrastructure and get all this stuff done, and I'm going to wait for the financial director to come back with these numbers with them for next week, like Elmi Rowley wanted, and look at them. But we also got to look at the people that we're going there and taxing, and the food and everything's going up. It's not only taxes, it's everything. And with the COVID that's coming, and it's the phase 2 is going to hit next summer. So we got to look at it very tightly now. The other question I have for design for the Director of Public Works is that once you're doing your roads for SAR and stuff, are you putting in a field management plan, excess field management plan for all your design your roads?
Yes, and that's something we're starting for next year's construction, is all the extra testing involved.
Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think we need to move ahead. This is a small step forward. As we were told, we're $47 million behind in infrastructure and road work, whether some believe it's that much or not. I do when I see some of the things, $2 million, if this is what it's going to cost. I'm certainly in favor of moving ahead with certainly looking at reconstructing these 3 roads that Public Works has brought up, and am interested in seeing how we finance it, whether it's all reserves, whether we have to add 0.5% to the taxes. I think we would be remiss if we just stop everything and not do anything. We're getting behind the 8 ball, and yes, it's tough times, but these times aren't going to change, and every year it's going to get tougher. And it's going to get tougher for us to catch up. So I think we need to move forward, even if it is just with a small project.
Mrs. Whittlesfield, do you have enough information in order to come back to council on this one item, roads?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the rest of the Public Works budget to discuss and go over it yet. Is there anything else? Oh, Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. I take great offense on what Councillor Anderson said about that basically nothing got done before you, Deputy Mayor and I were on the last council, and I think you were on the one previous to that. We got a lot done. I just want you to know that we didn't just sit on our arses and not get things done, and there was a lot done, and you can see a lot of it in this book. Furthermore, I think we can't move forward and pass this budget tonight anyways, so there's no point in talking about whether I know there's things we'd like to either add or take away, but we can't finish this budget tonight until we have that information as far as I'm concerned, so.
Go ahead, Linda.
Council, you need to understand that you're not in a hurry. So take your time, do what you want to do it correctly, feel good about what you do at the end of the day. So you don't have to do anything tonight. You've had 2 nights to talk about capital. We're going to go and shift gears and talk about external budgets next. And you'll see that and maybe some of the operating impacts that we're going to have, even though we're bringing you back a 0%, maybe you just need to digest the whole thing together. And then, you know, we don't need a resolution tonight. We don't need to move forward tonight. So I don't want the pressure to be on council to think that staff are expecting us to move forward. I know I thought it was a done deal yet last week because, you know, we brought you what you wanted. But I understand we have a lot of work to do. And Councillor Tadman's right. Over the last, I would say 15 years, we've seen a lot of infrastructure projects in this municipality. We've made a dent, very small dent in our infrastructure gap and in our infrastructure deficit. And we have a ton of work to do yet. So, you know, take your time and do it right.
Okay, so on that note, what I'm chairing, I need to know what council wants to do as well. So are we going to continue to go through these categories and see whether there are some that we've have a consensus on and some that we don't? And I mean, we're still in Public Works now. Do we want to leave that till next time and discuss it again then and move on to, I think we have our harbors next. So we're going to put a pin in this and come back and discuss it next week. Sound good? Okay. Did you have a comment, Councillor Anderson?
Aren't they all things that need to be discussed? Why we're here? Why don't we discuss some of those things?
Well, we are discussing, we're going on to the next item.
Oh,
We're
I
just
thought you said we're
Public
gonna,
Works.
so we leave this and.
Public Works we're leaving. We're
Oh,
going to
okay.
discuss
Oh, okay,
again
no,
next week when we have the info.
I got the impression we were leaving it, so. Anyhow, we have a lot of infrastructure to get working on.
Okay, so the next is our harbors and Parks and Rec at 751,000. Sorry, 741,000. Comments, discussion on this? Go ahead, Mayor Ostrander.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the 2 remarks I noted from last week was that there was consideration to pave the dog park parking lot that was not included in this budget for about $10,000, and that in a perfect world, the arena would have a new compressor installed in 2021 to the tune of about $40,000. Big fan of the fact that we have a dog park. Don't have a dog, so probably won't use it a lot. And if I do, you know, I've finally lost it. Wouldn't that be a sight? But the arena compressor, Mr. Miller, what's the longevity of the existing compressor?
Well, it's pretty much at its age. I mean, it was put in 76. So we overhaul it every other year. So that's where I'm getting at. It's still reliable right now. We had to overhaul the motor last week, and so it's running well. But you're asking me what, you know, that's the next component after the chiller. I would like to add with the 1-ton truck, I did actually go back and look at the actual mileage, because when I said it, it's like, and I'm wrong, apologize. It's 81,000 kilometers. Yeah, so I made a.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Could I be reminded, Jim, as to what this chiller would cost?
40.
And if, and also what you would approximately spend annually to keep this one going?
It's the compressor.
To keep it going, you're probably looking about $3,000. Like I said, it's not, it's still running, but the age of it, you're asking me what I would replace, that would be one of the components. Because we have the chiller here. That does need to be replaced, because if it fails, the whole system gets contaminated because it's got ammonia and everything in it. I'd like to.
And were you asking for the cost of the actual
The chiller,
expenditure?
is that
It was about 40
100,000?
It was about 40,000, wasn't it?
Or 40,000?
That was the compressor.
For the compressor,
The
okay.
chiller's 100,000.
Yeah.
I've budgeted.
Yeah.
And that's what you really need to have replaced, more so than just the compressor?
Yes, because their life expectancy is between 20 and 25 years, and right now
You're at
we are
45.
about 21 years. For the chiller.
Any other, go ahead, Councilor Dayton.
Just on the compressor and the chiller, the pipes that go underneath the pavement are installed in 76, 77 as well, aren't they? They're quite old. And
They're PVC pipes, plastic pipes, so they have a longevity between 35 and 50 years.
what are they at right now?
Would be at 40 years.
Yeah.
44 years. So, I mean, we're lucky where our floor hasn't moved very much. I mean, when you see it in the summer, it's in fairly good shape compared to a lot of other places that have heating. So we are in good shape as far as that goes. If you want to put any floor in, you're looking at $500,000.
Yeah.
So,
But if the floor fails, the new compressor doesn't save it, right?
oh no. The compressor just makes your brine go down in temperature. It's got nothing to do with the floor. But again, that's one of those big ticket items. I guess if you're looking at a new arena down the road.
Mhm, me too. Okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. In a perfect world where there's lots of money coming into the municipality and we can build a new arena, can the chiller and the compressor move to that new arena if that ever happened?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good point. Okay, so we're at $741.
Hand up.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see him. Go ahead. Oh, are we wanting to add items? Thoughts from council? So go ahead, Councilor Rowley.
Thank you. So just going back through the sum, so basically we're going to only use about $25,000 from tax support for the chiller. And then you need to add 40,000 if you needed to change the compressor. Am I understanding that that's the project?
He hasn't asked for it for this year, though.
Oh. Between 35 and 40,000. But I can wait one more year if need be.
You don't want anything extra?
Where do you get all your money?
Part of the
I
conversation.
can't afford my property taxes, and you just want to keep
Well, no,
raising them.
Okay,
I understand, Councillor Tadman. I lost my job this year too, so I decreased my income. I'm just asking.
Well, you must be getting it somewhere.
It's I was just making a comment. We talked about a compressor. Jim brought it up. He just mentioned now it could wait another year. I just made a comment.
okay,
Sorry.
go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. By waiting to get the compressor, is there something else that you would be then pushing back for another year on the 2021 budget to wait for so that you can get your compressor?
No.
Thank
not
you.
that sure.
Councilor Bateman.
I was just going to comment, for what it's worth, I think it's beneficial to put it back a year, only because at any given moment, hockey could be shut down and all the other user groups of that this year. It's unpredictable. I can only speak for our organizations. We're doing it month by month because we don't know at any given time whether the province will pull the plug. So to put that expenditure out there this year, if we're told we can't go on the ice at the provincial level, then it's kind of waste of expenditure this year.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but you could possibly be talking about the next season going on the ice. You know, that's a year away. And you might not be ready. And I remember the discussion on this, that if that chiller goes down, you're out of business for a while, right?
If our chiller went down right now, your season would be over for probably 2 months.
That's
But
my
we're not
point.
talking about the chiller, right?
Right.
That's in the budget.
I'm
The
sorry, did I
compressor
say
is-
chiller?
Well, if the compressor, yeah, you could still run on one compressor for a
Alright.
few
Okay.
days.
All
I
right.
mean,
So I'm
but
just,
it's one of those
so
things.
my
you
only
can
concern, and
get
I
in
bring
and
it
get
up, is we're thinking budget. Again, this is a budget, it's a forecast. We're talking that you would need this, perhaps you would need this next October. And we don't know where, again, we're trying to predict the future here. But if you want to put it off, that's fine. But if if it goes down, you might lose your season next year.
Yeah, so just for clarity, this is a budget, a forecast, but our taxes are invoiced out based on what we decide. So it does matter. It's not, organizations have budgets and they kind of see where things go and what
I
comes
know,
in.
but
and-
we're also spending deferred money as well in our budget. So that's what's helping us in some areas this year. We're picking
I
up.
understand that, but when we create a budget, our taxes are
Exactly.
invoiced at
But
that rate.
my concern is if it went down, we'd be crying the blues that we don't have an arena.
I don't think we're going to be crying the blues. The compressor goes down. We have another one. Is that correct?
Well, we have 250 horsepower compressors and we can run on one with the weather being what it is at 0. I mean, it's not ideal,
So
but,
if you don't need it, don't.
but I mean, it's one of those things where you can, if it goes down, you can get a new one within a couple of days.
Okay.
And it'd be emergency purchase, right?
Okay.
No budget.
Go ahead, Mayor Ostrander, and then Councillor Tadman. And we need to make a decision on
Thank you,
this.
Deputy Mayor. And the reality is, if any of our departments come to us with a failure of a critical piece of equipment after we've passed our budget, we're going to find the money. We're going to beg, borrow, or steal it from somewhere to make sure that we can service the community. And if that means keeping our arena running by having to find 40 grand in a reserve or from the bank, then we're going to do that. We have a duty to serve the community, and we will continue to do so.
Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. I hope we're not going to nitpick this whole thing in every line. So I would like to suggest that because I've talked about the pickup truck, I think for this year, 75,000 I would not spend. But I definitely support most of what Jim has there. But I have a hard time believing here it's got 125,000 for that pickleball court. Somewhere else in here it says 100,000. I have talked to I think he's the chair now of the organization. He said easily 3 courts could go for 40,000. So I would, just so that it would be covered well, I would at least support 60,000 for that. And I think everything else, I know the one concern out here is in the winter that it gets icy and people can fall and get hurt. So I could even go with that being paved if we got rid of the 1-ton truck and cut that pickleball almost in half.
Jim, the pickleball, if we cut it in half, what are we going to get?
Well, you won't get what I'm looking at because I know I do have a budgeted price from a reputable person. And that's what he told me to put in to do it correctly.
I was told through the group that if you bring somebody that does this out of Toronto professionally, yes, it'll be twice as much, but if we hire people in the area, you can get it for half price or less. So I would like to, at this point, we can always, like the mayor said, we can always go back if we need to beg, borrow. We won't steal it, but we'll beg or borrow from something else. But I really think that that's very high for 3 courts.
If I may, 40,000 will get you the 3 courts on the existing basketball court. You'd extend that asphalt out and put another 1-inch tap. That's what I got for that price. This other one is again, the 3 courts on a different area.
Well, I had the map and I walked it. And the man was telling me because he's played on a lot of different courts and halves. So I don't know.
Okay, so let's hear what everyone else thinks on that, and just sorry. And so we're talking about, well, obviously we're talking about the whole budget, but just I want to hear what everyone has to say about the pickleball court and the 1-ton truck. Those seems to be in some cases an area that we want to discuss, but we do need to keep things going as well, so we can go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I support the Parks and Rec budget, capital budget as it stands.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
I do too. I do too. Support it. The tenders aren't even out on this pickleball court, so we don't know what I know it, again, it's budgeted money, but we're going to pick the best price at the best and to do it. So
for this pickleball court, are we going to receive funds from the group to membership funds or payment for renting it?
We will be receiving funds towards this project. It would be negotiated with the club for a yearly fee to use them.
A yearly fee, which would be in your operational budget. Is that correct?
Yes, it is in the development charges study.
Mhm.
So the majority of the funds will be coming from DCs.
Okay, thank you. That helps, right? We're not just making an expenditure, we're making an expenditure that will
Right.
bring in
And
funds as
it'll be
well.
tendered, so, it may come in lower.
Okay. Councillor Rowley?
Thank you. There again, reading the summary, 90,000 from development charges, 10,000 from fundraising. But as Councillor Tadman said earlier, you have the line item here, Jim, on page 25 is 125. This other is 100. Where would the 25,000 then come from? Is that tax support?
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Blanc, did you want to weigh in on this?
Again, the pickleball thing, the 100,000, I would support that right away. And through to Linda, through your chair, when I asked the question on the truck has 0 tax increase, right?
We're budgeting for that to be borrowed internally and repaid over the life of the truck.
So there's 0 tax increase.
0 tax increase this year and of that vehicle. Tax increase this year. And
I'm reading this correctly, so I understand. So am I hearing, are you wanting to keep the budget as it is? Or are you wanting to take a few things out? I need to get a general consensus at this point, or we leave it till next week.
I'd like to keep it as it is.
As it is?
I just had one more question, just around the truck, the 1-ton truck. Is that a necessity for the 1-ton for what you indicated it was used for? like a $75,000 truck for, because you said watering the flowers and.
No, it's for you, for hauling material. I mean, it's used, for trails, it's used for taking down trees, it's used for whatever, bulk material we need in the department. I guess it's like any vehicle. I mean, if you can put it another year, you're just putting money into an older vehicle. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Bateman? Are you satisfied with the budget as is, or are you looking for some changes?
I'm mostly satisfied the way it is. I'd like to see the pickleball courts, once they're tendered, come in a little cheaper, and the fee structure for using them like anything else would be further down the road, because I think every user group should contribute to what they're using, but that's conversation for a different day.
Okay, so I do believe the majority is as is. Did you have a final comment?
I just want to make a point because I know that most of council is going with the full budget. I just cannot believe that we're going to pay $75,000 for part of the year to look after watering our flower pots and putting a bit of mulch on trails. It just does not make sense to me.
I don't think we're paying $75,000 to water flowers. We're replacing a vehicle that needs to be replaced. That's what we're doing, and that's. And that's a good point. And we have talked about, that you can't make happen. Something staff. To cover the pickleball court. I don't know. Go ahead. Did you have a?
I was going to ask Mr. Miller to provide some feedback about whether this would be in fact parked for the winter, which I had a hard time believing.
So that seems to be an issue that we're hearing more and more. So certainly something that we need staff to be looking at is ways to use some of these vehicles year round. Councillor LeBlanc.
Deputy Mayor, for the Mayor, the dog park is not to pave the parking lot, it's just to make it larger with a couple more loads.
It's not included in the budget this year.
No.
No.
Yeah, thank you.
No. Okay. Councillor Anderson.
Just quickly, that truck, the demand is in the summer or in the working season. So we were talking about the truck not being used.
But we're hearing that we couldn't find a use for it in the winter, which is exactly what we want.
10% per year. It's not going to be 75,000 in the first.
That's correct. Okay, I think we have a general consensus on that department. So we're going to move on. Okay. We have sewer and water, which is supported by those water and sewer users. I've regretted moving into town. I know. It does. Okay, so do we have questions, comments on this area? Of course, it's a very large expenditure. We understand what it's going to. Who's going to start us off? Councillor LeBlanc.
Deputy Mayor for Preston, Director of Public Works, I'm sorry. When this project started back in the previous councils, it started at a cost expenditures. I was looking at 2.5 million, 4.5 million. And then while I got on council, it was 6 million. And now it's up to 12.5 million. But when I look at the size of the building and the MBBR, what it's used, the plastic stuff that you're going to use it, it's basically a trickling filter. So I look at the exceedings of cost with the same size building that was designed 6 years ago, and it went from 2.5 to 12.5. I have a problem with that. And then certain things that were said in closed door meetings that I can't say here, but it said a flip of a coin. And I understand the process very well, but I have a problem with spending this money on that type of process for just ammonia only, and not increasing the capacity of our citizens and the overall treatment. When it says in the design that J.L. Richardson said, before you put the MBBR, you have to have a proper activated sludge system at the head of the plant. So I think if we brought the proper activated sludge process, which they're doing ad hoc now, the ammonia levels are really low when they get to their SVI of over 600 to 700. And so they're coming down at 1. That came in open meeting when they have that process and they get their proper protozoas going. So when I look at this, I know it's gone to tender and I wasn't part of the design process or anything, but I have those questions on this large expenditure. I do have those. And we're still on
On the 12th.
Okay, and funding for that. I don't believe we have received funding for that at all. Are we still trying, I guess is the question as well.
We, as everybody knows, we tried, we failed for the last green fund, but if another opportunity comes up, we will certainly apply for it. That's why we have we're hoping something comes up in the winter or fall, and then we can apply for it again before we award the contract.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I certainly share Councillor LeBlanc's concerns with regard to this project. I've shared that with council and staff as well, and have had these concerns since the very beginning. That said, we are under an order to go down this road, so we will, and we have been working very well with the MECP of late, so we will continue to work with the ME, and hopefully we're able to find measures that can help avoid these costs, but at the end of the day, we will comply with our orders. And I'd note there is no rate support on this. It's all through borrowing and or development charges or reserves.
Any other comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. The one thing that I'm concerned about, and I know that Mark has brought up several times, the pumping station and the force, and that's going to be done soon.
1 week ago, we had the 30% design meeting. And I believe the next meeting is for 90%. And then we're supposed to February 2021.
Okay,
That's
so
our plan.
that is going forward because we're in big, deep, you know what?
I'm pushing like a freight train.
Yeah. So we have to have that done. And there's no sense us right now arguing about the MBBR, is there? And I think everything else on there has to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we don't have a choice. So there's no sense. We could sit here and talk about it, but it won't do us any good.
That's right.
And I want to get home and see if we beat Trump. Well, I got to see if my vote's good.
I don't think your vote is good, but I think the idea of getting home is a good one. Okay, so
I don't think we
obviously-
have to get home till Wednesday to find out if.
Well, I think that's right.
Might be better
Yeah.
than that.
Trump is winning. Anyway, so obviously that area, it needs to be done. We've discussed it to death. So we're satisfied with all of these areas. Then do we need to discuss that the waterworks 780?
No,
No, I
may
think-
I just say I support the wastewater and capital budgets the way they've been presented here.
How about everyone else? Are we good with that? Oh, Councillor Ashton.
You said the tender comes in on the 12th?
Correct.
Have some more accurate numbers that we can we can add to the,
Yes, that's
you
correct.
won't necessarily choose one then, but
So next week, when we come back, we're going to talk about, we're going to operating. Do we want to revisit this next week? Do we want to leave it for a few weeks? I want to hear from all of council. Next week, let's, sorry.
Sorry, Your
Director.
Worship. If we could just fully go through Public Works so that we're better prepared for next week, so hopefully everything's set. We just need further to just roads and road construction. It's
If I may, Deputy Mayor, I'll start off with saying I support the Public Works capital budget as presented with the exception of those roadworks that we discussed this evening.
That was the idea I got, but if anyone has something else, please. So it was just those items. Yeah? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're satisfied with that? You don't need a motion at this point, right? So next we have a question period. Is there anyone present that has a question about what we discussed tonight? I don't see anybody. To adjourn. Moved by Councillor Bateman, second by Councillor Tadman, that the November 3rd, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting adjourn at